Finding solutions. Exclusion zones.
One of the essential things is the environment we live in, and plastic is one of the most important factors shaping it.
Micro and nanoplastics have now infiltrated every corner of the planet, yet their distribution is far from uniform. Some regions accumulate especially high concentrations of plastic particles, and nowhere is this more pronounced than in the oceans. Each year, roughly 11 million tons of plastic waste enter the ocean, the equivalent of an Eiffel Tower made entirely of plastic plunging into the sea every 8 hours, or about 1,100 such towers annually. Initially, these towers consist of bottles, bags, fishing nets, and other plastic garbage. Over time, under the influence of sunlight, waves, and weathering, they fragment into billions of invisible killers, micro and nanoplastic particles. According to research, about 95% of small debris less than 5 millimeters in size is composed of plastics. The surface of the world's oceans is already covered with more than 350 trillion particles of microplastics, and the number continues to grow rapidly. However, the ocean depths hold countless trillions more, forming an invisible yet enormous area of contamination. And yet, that's not all. The sea breeze has become toxic. When waves break at the ocean surface, they generate countless bubbles. As these bubbles burst, they release not only salt crystals into the air, but also microscopic plastic particles. Carried by the wind, micro and nanoplastics scatter across the planet. The stronger the wind and the higher the sea foam, especially during storms, the more particles lifted into the atmosphere. Though invisible to the naked eye, the air around us is literally saturated with them. Each year, approximately 136,000 tons of microplastics are carried from the ocean to land by sea breeze. That is more than 370 tons every single day. In the atmosphere, plastics are transported thousands of kilometers by air currents. They settle in dew and fall to the ground with snow and rain. The coasts and coastal regions are the first to bear the impact.
When people go to this seashore, okay, for holiday, for swimming, to receive some sunlight, they always send me pictures of microplastics because all the seaside are full of microplastics.
A study conducted in a coastal city in eastern China found that a person can inhale up to 1 million microplastic particles per year simply by spending time outdoors. The greatest danger comes from particles smaller than 100 micrometers, which can easily enter the respiratory tract.
Because most of the coastal countries in the Mediterranean Sea don't have proper waste management system, so they release huge amount of plastic waste into the Mediterranean Sea. This is the first reason. The second reason, we have two rivers in this part of the Mediterranean Sea, Seyhan and Ceyhan. These two rivers, in two of the 5 most polluted rivers in the Mediterranean Sea. Recycling actually makes those two rivers most polluted rivers in the Mediterranean Sea. They carry more than 5,000 tons of plastic waste into Mediterranean Sea every year. It's too much. And also, the coastline in the Turkish coast has pollution like 31 kilogram per kilometer per day. Every day, 31 kilogram of plastic waste reach that coast in 1 kilometer coastline. It's too much. Just imagine, one plastic bottle is 10 gram or 15 gram. You can imagine how many plastic bottle strand on those coastlines.
Dr. Sarju Ganatra is a cardiac oncologist and director of the cardiac oncology program at Lehigh Hospital and Medical Center. He leads research at the intersection of cardiovascular medicine, oncology, and environmental sustainability. According to his study, which was presented to the American Academy of Neurology, living in coastal areas is associated with an increased risk of brain and mobility disability. The reason for this is the high concentration of microplastics in the water, air, and soil of these regions.
It's alarming, truly, that what we are seeing, that people living close to the coastal water with high amount of microplastic concentration in the seawater, they have higher prevalence, higher rates of various cardiovascular disease, stroke, diabetes, and other metabolic conditions, as well as cognitive mobility and self-caring disabilities and abilities to live independently essentially are less in that population.
Researchers analyzed health data from residents of 218 coastal counties across the United States, comparing CDC reports with levels of environmental microplastic pollution. The findings are striking. Memory and cognitive impairments occurred 9% more often among residents of areas with high concentrations of micro and nanoplastics, compared to those in areas with low concentrations. Motor disorders were 6% more frequent. Difficulties with self-care, such as dressing or maintaining hygiene, were 16% more common. Inability to live independently, including managing finances or shopping, was 8% more frequent.
In coastal regions, where the concentration of micro and nanoplastics far exceeds that found in inland, people are already paying the price, not only with their health, but with their lives. In a study led by Dr. Sarju Ganatra, scientists compared regions with high and low levels of microplastic pollution. But this raises an important question. That is, what does low level mean today? To answer this, let's look at the numbers. Dr. Ganatra defined a low level of contamination as one tiny plastic particle per 200 bathtubs filled with seawater. At first glance, that might sound negligible. But when that single particle breaks down into nanoscale fragments, the number of particles increases not by tens or hundreds, but by millions of times. Let's consider a simple calculation. Suppose the volume of one such tiny plastic particle is just 1 cubic millimeter, roughly the size of a grain of sand. Over time, it breaks down into many smaller pieces. Now, if we assume that this single microparticle disintegrates into fragments about 100 nanometers in diameter, that would generate about 1 trillion particles. And if their size decreases to 10 nanometers, the number would skyrocket to 10 to the 15th, or 1 quadrillion nanoparticles, all from a single microparticle. So what does this mean in practice? It means that even one glass of such clean water, which hardly exists anymore, would potentially contain about 5 million nanoplastic particles. And for the human body, after drinking just one glass, at least 5 million cells will be put at risk. So can this so-called low level of contamination truly be considered safe? Each of those 5 million particles entering a body can trigger inflammation, cause hypoxia, and disrupt communication between neurons. Note that these effects aren't always immediately noticeable. A mild headache, occasional fatigue, anxiety, or difficulty concentrating, all these may be early warning signs of cognitive decline, neurodegenerative diseases, disability, and ultimately, death. These symptoms are particularly evident among people who live or spend significant time near the coastal regions. And the decline in their health is an early warning sign, a reflection of a much larger crisis unfolding across the world. Do you remember Professor Gundogan saying that the coastal countries of the Mediterranean don't have an adequate waste management system? Well, according to research, the concentration of microplastics in this region is about 4 times greater than North Pacific Ocean, where, by the way, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is located. And in addition to 5 already known invisible garbage patches, researchers have identified a 6th garbage patch hidden in the Mediterranean Sea. It's called invisible because it consists mostly of microplastics. And unlike other oceanic garbage patches, which are at least far away from the densely populated coastline, this one is surrounded by 21 countries. It's a home to nearly 500 million people. We can say that this is the most dangerous garbage patch of the planet, because here, the plastic has already broken down into small sizes that are dangerous for life. Everyone living in the Mediterranean is constantly breathing air with an extremely high concentration of micro-nanoplastics. This is an extremely dangerous zone that should have been long ago been designated as an exclusion zone. Now, recall the battery example and imagine how many charged particles are present and how much energy is concentrated there. That's why the Mediterranean Sea is warming faster than the rest of the world's oceans. This is very serious because Mediterranean plays a key role in shaping the climate of Europe and the Mediterranean countries. It affects the weather patterns, rainfall distribution, and even the ecosystems of the entire region. It is precisely this extreme warming here, driven by micro and nanoplastics, that is intensifying the climate anomalies, extreme weather events, and even natural disasters throughout the Mediterranean. Meanwhile, the amount of micro and nanoplastics continue to rise with every passing minute. And what worries me personally is that people do not know this and continue traveling to these regions, often with their children, thinking that they're going there to rest and recharge, when in reality, they're entering a zone of extreme danger. So the things that once symbolized health, freedom, and luxury, a yacht on an open water, a villa by the sea, or even a private island in the ocean, they're now slowly turning into exclusion zones. For now, this problem is mainly recognized by scientists, but it will soon become impossible for the public to ignore. And when that moment comes, mass migration from coastal regions will be inevitable. Thus, if we fail to find a solution, the economic losses will be enormous, as the tourism industry will collapse and luxury resorts on the coast will be deserted. Yet, the threat doesn't end there, because the tiny plastics are constantly spreading by the atmospheric circulation and contaminating everything in its path.